Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Hopcast, and today we have not a beer review, but a different kind of a video today. I wanted to explore something that a buddy of mine were talking about not too long ago, and that was what your bucket list beers would be. If you haven't heard of a bucket list, you've probably been living under a rock, I guess, but a bucket list would be, if you were to have all these things, then your life could end tomorrow and you'd be totally fine. So being that, a huge fan of beer that I am, it's natural that I would have some sort of a bucket list or a wish list or something like that for beer. So I was going to go ahead and share mine with you guys today. And before I get started, if you guys have beers that you really like, or not really like, but would really like to get your hands on, something like that, your bucket list beers, leave them down in the comments below. I'd love to see what other people's ideas are, to see where your tastes lie, that kind of stuff. My list is kind of built half on hype and half on just personal preference. And I'm just going to go ahead and start it off with probably the hardest beer to get on this entire list, and that would be by side project OWK. Now, this is a beer that was very exclusive when it came out, and I'm just going to talk about how exclusive this beer really is. It says on their actual website, OWK is the culmination of our stout production. We intertwined several of our favorite recipes into this massive stout and then aged it for 15 months in 15-year-old Willett family estate bourbon barrels, which were hand-selected by our friend Drew Coles. They even put his name there, which that must mean it's a big deal. Once mature, the beer was rested on Ugandan vanilla beans. Never even heard of Ugandan vanilla beans, but that's a thing. Adding layers of milk chocolate, decadent fudge, and earthy vanilla to the rich, luscious body of this barrel-aged imperial stout. Wow, that's quite a mouthful. This is a beer, I don't know how many they released, but one of the most sought-after beers in the world, possibly the most sought-after beer that I know of in the world. This thing is getting like a 4.94 on Untappd, with almost 1,000 ratings. It's just absolutely bonkers. I don't even know what to say. There apparently one guy has checked this in 7 times, so shame on you, man, for not spreading the wealth a little bit. But yeah, OWK side project. I haven't. Once they start blending stuff, this isn't a blend. At least it doesn't sound like it is. But once you get a side project, stouts are just so good. I haven't had a bad one. Beer Barrel Time is one of my favorite beers of all time, and I would love to get my hands on it. Just a bucket list beer, hands down. Next on my list, and kind of continuing the trend of stouts, would be KBBS, Kentucky Brunch Brand Stout from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company. Now, I've heard a couple of mixed things about this, and I don't know if it is a hype thing or not, but it's almost impossible for me to justify paying the price, at least secondhand, for a beer like this. And I think it's only a 12-ounce bottle. I mean, people are paying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars for this beer, but I really want to try it. I love coffee stouts. I mean, Kentucky Brunch. It sounds amazing. I've heard it's notoriously thick and viscous and chewy, and those are my favorite kind of stouts. And it comes in a commemorative little box, which is pretty neat. So yeah, KBBS, it's been released now for over 5 years, I want to say. And it's just one that I've had on my list probably since it came out, and I still haven't managed to try. So if you're out there and you guys want to do a trade or just send me a bottle, that would be fantastic. Next up on the list is a beer that it's kind of crazy that I've never had this before. And that's Dinner by MAINE Brewing Company. I was actually so close to trying this once. I was going to a Blackhawks game downtown Chicago. And the place we were going to before we went, me and my brother-in-law and father-in-law, they were serving this. They had it on their tap list, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the place we were gonna go to. I really want to try this beer. And by the time we got there, well, I can't really say by the time we got there, because when we got there, the guy's like, oh yeah, that keg kicked like 2 days ago. I'm like, well then why don't you update your list, man? I probably would have gone there anyway, but Dinner is a beer out of MAINE Brewing Company, and it is a clean double IPA, Imperial IPA, and it is just, I don't know, it's one that I've always wanted to try. It's been around for a while. Falconer Flight hops, Mosaic, Simcoe, Citra, and it's just a crisp traditional IPA that's super hoppy. Now I've had Lunch, which is like kind of like the kiddie version of that, but I've never been able to get my hands on Dinner, and I'm hoping that one day that'll change. Continuing with the New England flair, I will add Swish from BISSEL Brothers. That is another beer that I've always wanted to try, and I haven't made it out to the New England area to try it, nor have I had it in trade. I mean, I've had, various Treehouse beers, Trillium, Heady Topper, Lawson, Sip of Sunshine, but Swish is a double IPA that I have not had the chance to try yet. And it's kind of a shame, because it's really not that hard to get from what I understand. I just never have gotten around to... These are two MAINE beers, now that I think of it. The beer just looks so turbid and hazy. Citra, Mosaic, and Simcoe hops. I mean, you can't really go wrong with the combo on that. Very close to what Dinner is, only this is a New England style IPA, not a traditional IPA. And, BISSEL Brothers, never had a beer from them before, and I would love to start. Barrel Aged Adjunct Trail. This is a beer that came out in 2019, a collab between Angry Chair and Prairie Brewing Company. And this is a collab that, for the life of me, I can't understand why Prairie didn't barrel age it, to my knowledge. I've had the regular Adjunct Trail from Prairie, and it's a fantastic beer. 11% alcohol, bourbon barrel aged Imperial Sweet Stout with coconut, hazelnut, and coffee. Like my three favorite adjuncts in beer all together. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about this beer. The Adjunct Trail version, I said it's good. And I've heard the barrel aged version, the bourbon barrel aged version from Angry Chair, just steps it up to 11. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's a beer that I really want to try, but to be honest with you, this is another one, kind of like KBBS or others, that's going to set you back a couple $100 if you buy it on a secondary. And since it's a collab, I don't know if this will ever get released again. So again, if you guys want to set up a share, and maybe we can work something out, and I'll be able to try it. But definitely one that's on my list. I've had just about every Treehouse beer, all the big hitters, King Julius, Very Green, Juice Machine, Judge Julius, the King Judge Julius assist I reviewed on this channel. But the one that has eluded me for quite a long time is Very Hazy. Now, this is basically the Very Green version of Hazy, one of their staple beers, but I've heard a lot of people say that this is Treehouse's best beer. Now, it hasn't been released very frequently, not as frequently as Very Green is released, and that's my favorite Treehouse beer. But I do have a proxy now who sends me stuff from Treehouse every once in a while, so maybe, just maybe, one of these days I'll be able to get my hands on it. But we'll see. Living in the Chicago area, it's kind of sad that I have never had Vanilla Rye. The 2014 Bourbon County Stout variant, and I don't know, there's not much that hasn't already been said about this beer. Huge vanilla notes, great rye barrel character. From what I understand, this came out in 2014, but it's starting to fall off significantly now. So I really want to get my hands on it sooner than later. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. One beer that's been getting a lot of hype lately is Pliny the Younger. Now this is a beer that's been out for quite some time, but it's been a brewery only on-site consumption on tap kind of a beer. So Russian River Brewing Company out of California made the decision this past year to go ahead and release Pliny the Younger in bottles for the very first time ever. And this is as traditional of a West Coast IPA as you can get, but it is a monster at about 10% alcohol. But from what I can understand and what I've seen from other people that have reviewed it, it's very clean, really sneaky 10% alcohol, and easily drinkable. Probably the best West Coast IPA that people have ever had. So one day I plan on getting my hands on it, and honestly, I really hope that the pendulum starts swinging back the other way so we get more of those traditional, more of those West Coast IPAs on the market, because I just miss that era of beer when everything was just new and fresh, and my palate wasn't completely desensitized to the hazy and the New England IPAs, a hop explosion. So maybe one day. Right along the same lines of KBBS is SR71 from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company. Now this one is actually harder to get than KBBS is. Only a couple thousand bottles were made. SR71, they said it's an experimental outlet to test processes and recipe design, but it is a monster beer. And it's one that I've always wanted to try, and hopefully one day we'll be able to try. I don't know. I don't really know what's in the beer adjunct wise, if any. It doesn't really say anything about it, but I do know a couple of people that have had it, and they said it's better than KBBS. So maybe one day I'll get my hands on it. Next one up is not a beer per se, but it is a mead, which a lot of people that like beer like mead, and vice versa. So that would be Blue Suede Shoes from Pips Meadery. Never had a Pips mead before, but everything I've heard has been positive, and I love cashews. And blueberry and cashews together just sounds like a match made in heaven, or like a blueberry peanut butter vibe. And from what I understand, when you open a bottle of Pips, the nose just explodes out, and it's absolutely freaking amazing. So one day guys. So last up on my list is a beer style I haven't talked about yet, and that is from FARMSTEAD Brewery, one of the best breweries in the world, and that is Art. Art is the wine barrel fermented and aged version of Arthur, 1920. So they talk about when he was alive. Our grandfather's youngest brother, as well as the name of our rustic farmstead ale. In honor of Arthur, we mindfully blend his namesake beer from French oak wine barrels that have been aged and conditioned on or between 1 and 3 years. Wow. This is the standard that reflects, redefines, and guides the progressive vision for Hill Farmstead. And most specifically, the beer that I'm talking about is Art Batch 4, which from what I understand is the best one out there. Now I don't know what makes it different, if they just aged it better than some other batches, but it's a dry, absolutely phenomenal wine barrel aged saison, and it's just a beer that I've always wanted to try, and hopefully one day I will get to. So guys, what is on your bucket list for beers? I'd like to see that in the comments below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, something a little different today, and remember to comment and all that good stuff down below. This is going to do it for me today, and I will catch you later.